Lysandra's Poem, a short story by Budge Wilson. When I was a child, my family lived beside the sea, but not precisely so. Not right on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean, with the horizon sliding away flat all the way to Spain. No. We lived in a little harbor town in Nova Scotia, a full mile from any point of land where you could view the open sea. But apart from the fact that you couldn't see the ocean, except insofar as the harbor was part of it, the sea might just as well have been smack dab in the middle of our town. A day without fog was a time for rejoicing. Most days, tourists crept through our streets in their shiny American cars, fresh off the Bar Harbor ferry from sunny New England, headlights on and honking. The winters were windy and damp and dispiriting, the springs endless and fluky, promising summer one day and sprinkling snow on the stunted tulips the next. In summertime, all expeditions were planned tentatively. Sentences ended with the phrase, "if it doesn't rain." Packed linens were attacked by mildew, wire coat hangers rusted, envelopes stuck together if they weren't stored in airtight plastic bags. The fact is that we can't cope with too much fine weather in Nova Scotia. We're chicken-hearted about the heat, and are beaten down by it, plowed right under. And a brisk sunny day, a perfect day, undoes us. People with indoor jobs are irritable, tense. Spirit and body are in active resistance to any activity that takes place inside a building. Those who are free to go outside, housewives, the unemployed, mothers trailing children, people on vacation, spill out of their houses onto the water, the beaches, the parks, or their own backyards. On such a day, not all those smiling people strolling along our main street are tourists. Most of them are native Nova Scotians, agape at a miracle. People call in sick, sleep through the alarm, quit jobs. If there are 6 or 7 of those days in a row, the whole economy is at peril. Editors miss deadlines, back orders are ignored, laundry accumulates, cupboards are bare. The sighting of a fog bank or the first rainy day is almost a relief. One way or another, a climate like this is bound to rub off on people. One person may become surly and fixed, gray and dank of spirit, long-lived and persistent in a trial to his family. Another can end up hopeful, the fruit of those spectacular sunny days when the light is clearer, more pungent than most other Canadians could ever imagine. If one dwells on and in those days, an optimist is bred, living for and believing in the arrival of such rare and golden times. Or you can be the way I was, stubborn and opportunistic, snatching what I could out of a resistant environment. Or like Lysandra Cochrane, at first tentative and careful, and then with no softness in her, bitter and barbed, with a heart as hard and as cutting as diamonds. Lysandra, you may exclaim, what a name to issue forth from such a small and simple town in one of the back places of our land. No town is simple, let me say, but that does not explain Lysandra's name. Nova Scotians, especially those in coastal areas, have a way of leafing through literature, by which I mean anything from old-school texts to the Bible and the obituary columns, to find names for their babies. The Cochranes fished around in heaven knows what sources and pulled up Lysandra. Rumor had it that Mr. Cochrane, addicted to libraries in any case, spent the day his wife was in labor in the reference library in Halifax looking for names. He was a smart man, a sky-high scholarship student in his day. His Dalhousie bursary had covered tuition only, and he had lacked sufficient cash to puff out the sum enough to accept it. He was one of those who are gray and dank of spirit. His ambition had been snuffed out before it had had a chance to warm up, and he lived his whole adult life as a minor clerk in a law office, watching other people cash in on the benefits of a university education. He drank a large percentage of his earnings, snapped at his pale wife, once a beauty according to my mother, but imagination failed to grasp such an improbability, and sired 4 thin children. Lysandra was my best friend. She was as dark as her mother was fair, a skinny kid, all ankles and elbows and bony knees. Her skin was smooth and sallow, her hair long and limp. She was tall for her age when we were kids, and shy. She looked at strangers, and at teachers and fathers, out of enormous black eyes, head bent forward and down. She walked with an awkward, jerky gait, as though she were not at home on her own legs, and as she passed by, the other kids would whisper, "Pigeon-toed Cochrane." But when we were alone together, Lysandra was full of amazing thoughts, large ambitions, bizarre projects. Without being instructed, she thought in metaphors, and her speech was full of exotic images and odd rhythms. She invented a whole mini-language so that she and I could talk to one another without being understood by others. She intended to be a writer, an author, she said, famous and rich, and this thought permeated most of her other plans and inventions. Like her father, she haunted the library, but equipped with a hope he had long ago relinquished. She read all the good poets before she was 12, and a lot of the bad ones, too. She was gobbling up Shakespeare while I was stretched out on my floor on my stomach with crime comics. It was to her books that she retreated when her father went on his rampages, escaping his noise in the sight of her frowsy mother's stricken face, losing herself in whatever volume she had in her room, finding her place at a neatly inserted bookmark. If I were in the house at the time, we would race upstairs at the first hint of conflict, and I would watch this withdrawal. She wouldn't say a word to me, but would just sit up straight on a little yellow chair she had, her book held close to her face, not moving except to turn the pages. I both hated and relished these occasions. We didn't have high drama like this in my house, and I listened, breath held, to Mr. Cochrane's fierce catalogue of oaths, words to make me shudder all the while I was straining to keep from missing any of them. I was single-mindedly troubled by the sounds that came from Mrs. Cochrane, but this was part of the performance and had to be endured if I were to benefit from the rest of it. Besides, there was no escape for me. I could hardly march downstairs and walk through that battlefield and out the back door. I sat on the bed, hunched under an afghan, while Lysandra read on, her lips in a thin, tight smile.